Bestow upon us your excellent advice. Help us to gain knowledge and experience. Teach us to be humble, respectful, and friendly. Happy the man who finds wisdom, the man who gains understanding. Amen.
Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor Stafford.
Here.
Alderman Lincoln.
Here.
Alderman Sahoski.
Here.
Alderman Weston.
Here.
Alderman Sherman.
Here.
Alderman Thompson.
Here.
Alderman Woodward.
Here.
All present, Your Honor.
Thank you. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
Yes, we'd like to move item number 13 to number 1.
All right. Are there any other changes, modifications? Hearing none. First item.
Resolved that the Fulton Community Development Agency is hereby authorized to prepare and submit a grant application to the New York State Department of State Local Waterfront Revitalization Program for waterfront revitalization activities designed to extend the Canal Promenade from Indian Point Landing Boat Launch and Park to Canal Landing Plaza. Said activities to include drainage, pavement, benches, banners, bollards, signage, boat launch, and paving at a cost not to exceed $260,000. Be it further resolved that the Council of the City of Fulton hereby approves and authorizes the city's local match requirements of $130,000, $65,000 cash, and $65,000 in-kind services, and that Mayor Stafford is directed to sign applications and execute contract documents upon approval by the Common Council.
I'll offer that, Your Honor.
The CDA has put together a grant application for this, and we have already received 2 letters from Fran Sullivan and from the Canal Corporation in favor of this, supporting this.
That's good. Where would the other boat launch be?
No, this,
It's the existing boat launch at Indian Point Landing, which, if you're familiar, we have a problem with the boat launch.
Yeah.
We never did the boat launch when we did Indian Point Landing because we didn't have the funding available. And the concrete pad that's in there keeps slipping down, and I guess the boaters have terrible problems with traction. So this would be a permanent fix.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because I know the mayor gets a lot of complaints on it, so do I.
we have had a few.
Like,
We don't have any really pretty picture, but this is a conceptual design of what the roadway would look like. And you'll allow me just to read a portion of the narrative. The Canal Promenade will extend from the existing Indian Point Landing boat launch and park to Fulton's downtown Canal Landing Plaza. Will bolster the city's efforts to reconnect the community to the canal. The proposed promenade is a vital piece of the community's plans to link other areas of the community to the central business district, provide additional access to the waterfront for tourists and residents alike, and improve the environmental quality of this overgrown and underutilized portion of the Oswego Canal. If you've been there, you realize that the roadway is now closed because there are some very serious drainage problems along the river. The drainage that's in this grant will also help to address those problems that we have on North First Street area now. The project will be a perfect complement to Indian Point Landing, which was a $69,000 iced tea grant out of a $110,000 project. Canal Landing project, which was $1.6 million of HUD's Canal Corridor Initiative grant funding out of a $2.1 million grant project. And the proposed footpath trail, which was submitted to DOT through the TEA 21 program for a $140,000 grant, and it was $60,000 city share, $200,000 total project. The proposed Canal Promenade is a component of the city's bridge-to-bridge plan developed in 1997 to revitalize the central business district and the local waterfront revitalization program, the LWRP, which has outlined waterfront revitalization as essential to revitalizing Fulton's economy. The Canal Promenade will include closing one lane of a 2-lane street along the canal, converting it to a pedestrian/bike path, banners, decorative furniture, drainage improvements and the improvements to the boat launch. The promenade will connect the existing trails and parks and serve as a perfect complement to the Canal Corridor project. And that's one of the things that you have to show in the grant application to make it competitive, is that it's tied in with either initiatives that are planned or initiatives that are underway. I think it's a great project. And it will certainly, we've got a couple in at the same time now, and if we can get them both, we will tie the whole one side of the river totally.
This project will do a lot for our river bank as they did in Oswego with their promenade.
If anyone, it's a beautiful area down there. It's I think, one of the most beautiful parts of the river. It's so undisturbed, and it's just a shame that it's just lying there, and it's perfectly idle at this point. So I hope that you folks will go ahead and approve this, and more importantly, I hope that we're awarded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Resolved that the Common Council minutes of July 6th and July 19th are hereby approved as per attached.
Motion?
I'll offer it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Resolved that the mayor, the executive assistant to the mayor, the city chamberlain, the city attorney, and the city clerk be authorized to attend the fall training school to be held at the Neverly Hotel in Ellenville, New York, from September 13th to September 17th, 1999.
Do you have an estimated cost?
It's $130 registration, and then the meals are included in with the room rate. It's a flat rate that everybody has budgeted under the training budget.
I'll move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
There was a meeting the council held on July 6th. The clerk was authorized, directed to advertise for a public hearing to be held at this meeting relative to a proposed local law which offers an early retirement incentive to eligible city employees. Mayor Stafford will declare the hearing open.
This is a situation that has come up just about annually where they have offered the retirement incentive. I'm not sure at this time how many people are eligible, let alone how many people would be inclined to take this benefit. But we have to act upon it in a timely fashion to allow this to take place. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this item?
Out of town.
Is there anyone on the council? Hearing none, I declare the public hearing closed.
Now therefore be it resolved that the proposed local law which offers an early retirement incentive to eligible city employees pursuant to Chapter 70 of the laws of 1999 is hereby approved.
Is there a motion?
I'll move it. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Whereas by memo dated July 14th and July 20th from Commissioner Graham to the city clerk, which he advised the city clerk of expenditures for city funds, materials, labor, and equipment for garbage and trash removal at 113 West 4th Street, and also trash removal at 316 Hannibal Street. Be it resolved that there is hereby levied against the premises described above special assessments as specified, said special assessments to be effective immediately, and the amount of said assessments plus interest at 24% per year shall be added to the 2000 City of Fulton tax bill if not paid in full prior to December 15th, 1999, excepting city-owned property. Interest on said special assessment shall accrue effective as of the date of this resolution.
Do hear a motion?
I'll offer that.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
There was a meeting of the council held on July 6th. The city clerk was authorized and directed to receive sealed bids on or before August 3rd up to 4 p.m. and to be publicly open at 4:15 in the council chambers for furnishing the city of Fulton with ferric chloride in accordance with specifications prepared by Mr. Edick of the city engineer's office. Whereas the following bids were received and read aloud as follows: Eagle Brook Incorporated, $260 per dry ton, and Jones Chemical, $255 per dry ton. Whereas by letter dated August 10th from Mr. Edick of the Engineering Department, he states that he has reviewed the above bids, recommends that the bid be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder, being Jones Chemical, in the amount of $255 per ton, dry ton. Whereas the council would agree with Mr. Edick, therefore be it resolved that the bid of Jones Chemical in the amount of $255 per dry ton for furnishing the city of Fulton with ferric chloride in accordance with specifications prepared by the Engineering Department is hereby accepted and awarded to Jones Chemical in the amount of $255 per dry ton.
I'll offer that, Your Honor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Whereas properties on the west side of the city of Oswego River have been subject to erosion caused by flow of the river and changes in the water levels. Whereas for some property owners, this erosion has become a serious concern and a safety issue. Now therefore be it resolved that the city clerk be directed to forward a copy of this resolution to our elected county, state, and federal officials so that said officials may determine whether there are any programs available which might be used to address this problem.
Alderman Weston.
For many years, the residents of the west side of the Oswego River, namely Forest Ave, have had numerous concerns about the effect on their properties in regard to boat traffic on the river. We've had, I know that Kerry Butler, for one, Wes Belcher, Joe Allerton, are three of the people that have certainly very strongly advocated some kind of adjustment or some kind of change, whatever that would be possible. The mayor and I have had different committee meetings with the residents on Forest Ave. Numerous letters have been sent, phone calls have been made, and this is just one more advancement to our goal, which is to at least to attempt to make some kind of regulations that might make a change in that erosion problem that they're facing. I certainly want to thank the mayor for the attention he's given this. He's, as I said, has gone to meetings. He's made phone calls. He's written letters. And if he would at this time, maybe he would expand a little bit on up-to-date information that he might have.
I sent a letter to the Canal Corporation based on a meeting that we had back in February, I believe, with January or February, in that the homeowners down in that area had requested a no-wake zone from city line to city line. And I received a response from the Canal Corporation dated the 28th of July, and I'd like to read that at this time. Dear Mayor Stafford, thank you for your letter regarding the City of Fulton area of the canal. This area is one of the busiest on the canal system, with most of the watercraft confined to local traffic rather than permit holders that use the canal lock system. The rules and regulations of the New York State Canal Corporation control speed on the Oswego Canal area. These provisions are currently under review. In addition, we are conducting a preliminary evaluation of resolutions adopted at the June 29, 1999 meeting of the Canal Recreation Way Commission in relation to establishing maximum speed limits and adopting the definition of no wake. We will keep in mind the concerns you raised regarding speed and wake limits as we proceed with our review and consider the recommendation of the CRC. We look forward to working with you as we continue the canal's revitalization. Sincerely yours, John M. King, who is the director of the New York State Canal Corporation. So at this point in time, they have not said yes to our request, but they have not said no to our request. It is still under review.
Well, right now on the river, it's speed limit 10 unless you're 100 feet or less from shore, and then it's speed limit 5. I know because I got yelled at by the county sheriff. So in the places where the river's less than 100 or less than 200 feet wide, it should be speed limit 5, which is no wake anyway.
Well, but what happens is even at 5 miles an hour with some of the larger craft, that does create a wake.
Well, I think the problem is with the jet skis at speed limit 40, so...
Well, some of these,
I think
yes.
that's
But
kind of
what
unfair.
we are looking for is to try to control the wake, because what we have found is, there have been studies, that depending on the size of the craft, you cannot just go by speed alone, because sometimes the larger craft, if they get up to speed a little bit, they put out less of a wake than if they're going slow. So we're trying to attack it from the wake end of it. Alderman Sahaski.
I just want to ditto what Alderman Weston mentioned about this. A large portion of the Second Ward also lies in this perimeter. And hopefully that something could be done. And the only other thing is making our county, state, and federal officials aware of the situation. I did attend, I was invited by Alderman Weston to 1 or 2 meetings in his ward. Mayor, you were there. Good response there. A lot of people there with concerns, and I just hope something could be done with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Be it hereby resolved that the city attorney is authorized to settle the pending Article 7 tax certiorari lawsuit with James J. Paternoster regarding tax map number 235.84-01-03, Challenger 7 Drive, by settling the 1999, 2000, and 2001 assessments at $175,000.
Give any information on this?
I don't think we should tell Diane. No, I'm just kidding. I hope everybody got a copy of Diane's letter also, explaining that this property was assessed at $225,000. They'd filed a grievance and a lawsuit to reduction to $150. We're settling $170. We'd like to settle $175, starting with the assessment for this year, which means it won't affect until the school tax that starts this year, so there will be no refunds. Some confusing and conflicting information regarding the actual income this property generates to the owner, and it's been kind of like pulling teeth just to get that information from their side, and they claim we're being a little too picky, and we claim they're not being very forthcoming with that. So Diane and I both felt that rather than prolong this thing, settling at this point at this number has been in the best interest of the city.
And they are in agreement with this?
Yes.
Are there any questions on this issue?
I'm surprised that Alderman Woodward hadn't spoke up. I think once again we continue to face these things, and we were hoping that we would get to the point where we wouldn't have to. The whole idea of the reval was to get to a position where we would stand a better case in court if we had to fight it, and that we would the value of the assessments would be more accurate. Now I don't know how we continue to get this difference.
This was pending, wasn't it?
This was pending, and
Oh, before the reval?
Yeah,
Okay.
but you also need to understand that with commercial properties, it's not as helpful. I mean, it's still helpful, but with residential, there's no question, reval is very helpful, and we've seen none of those filed this year, and I don't think we've even seen any commercial filed this year. We've had a few small claims that we're actually going to hearings on, but those have peculiar issues. But with commercial property, it's tough to. That promise that reval was going to make everything easier doesn't always apply to commercial property as easily anymore. But again, this was an older one.
Is this the last one we have
No, we still have Riverscape, and that's pretty much gone to a dead end, and I'm just going to wait till it gets to trial.
And that was filed also prior to?
Yes, that was also prior.
Well, if this was filed prior to then, did we also do reval on it? When reval come around? And if we did, what was the assessment on the reval?
I think the assessment was not changed. I think it was 2 1/4.
It stayed the same.
Because of the certiorari?
Not necessarily. No, I mean, that doesn't prohibit a change. I don't believe so. If there's new information to the assessors. I mean, I think if you change while it is pending, it may be something you're going to have to explain in court later, obviously. If you change it while the case is pending without further improvements being made to the property, I think that looks bad. So it probably, as a general practice, I think the assessor would leave it the same until the case is resolved.
Yeah, I think the average residential person, taxpayer, constantly sees these advantages going to businesses, and they probably feel it's very unfair, you know, that because it's constantly affecting our tax base.
One of the things we have to remember, and not that I'm in agreement or disagreement with this, but I've been advised that most of our commercial property has been overassessed for a number of years. And this is just bringing about the change that is definitely required. And that's one of the problems that we had with the reval, is it shifted some of the tax burden, or percentage of the tax burden, back to the residential owners because the commercial property had been so overassessed.
And the other problem is when you do the budget, you base it on your assessment, the assessments that are set at the time, and if 6-8 months later you're in the middle of settling a case like this, I mean, it's going to affect what you budgeted for income, but unfortunately you can't always see that coming.
Okay.
On the motion,
We don't have a motion.
do we have a motion?
I'll second it. Got to do it. I mean, we can't not do it.
It's either the motion or go to court.
Right. I mean, we'll probably lose anyway.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You're right.
Motion carried.
Not going to make any difference.
Next item.
Resolved that the city clerk's report for July 1999 in the amount of $5,514.04 is hereby received, approved, and placed on file.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll offer that.
Or second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Whereas the quote of Syracuse sand and gravel has been awarded by the County of Oswego at a price of $5.50 per ton delivered and $4 per ton pickup by the City of Fulton, and has been extended for 1 year. Whereas the City of Fulton wishes to join the County of Oswego in accepting the low bid of Syracuse sand and gravel at a price of $4 per ton pickup by the City of Fulton. Now therefore be it resolved that the City of Fulton hereby joins the County of Oswego in accepting the bid of Syracuse sand and gravel, and hereby authorizes the Commissioner of Public Works to purchase the sand from time to time without further resolution of the council.
This is just another situation where by the city working with the county, we can get the best price available for the materials that we need.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I don't know if you'll have the answer to this, but can we pick it up for less than $1.50 a ton?
That I'm not sure.
Because if we can,
Well, yes.
then we should go with 4. But if we can't,
I think what they do is usually, I believe it's delivered in only if we run into a real shortage do we expend, because I don't think that we can, just thinking of it with the...
if you pick up 20 tons, that's $1.50 is $30,
With
and we're going to pay somebody to do it plus the gas.
With the time and on the equipment,
It might be a lot cheaper just to go with the $5.50 instead of
we get
4.
it as much as we can, we get it delivered, I know that.
That's not what the resolution says, though. Resolution says we're going with the $4 and we'll pick it up. That's why I asked.
That's what last year said.
Okay, that's what last year said. All right. Then I think we need to research this a bit further. Thank you for bringing it up, Alderman Thompson. Because I tend to agree with you. I don't know if we can,
I don't know if we can pick it up, if we can go get it and bring it back for $1.50 a ton.
We have a motion?
No, we don't have any vote at all.
Is it something we have to do tonight? Or can we
No.
wait till 2 weeks
With
and have Bucky find out?
a motion to table?
Sure. I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next item.
Whereas a council meeting held on July 19th, the city clerk was authorized and directed to advertise for a public hearing to be held at this meeting of August 17th relative to a proposal for the removal of sidewalks to allow the parking of motor vehicles on the west side of South 7th Street from East Broadway for approximately 145 feet. Whereas this proposal was referred to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission at their meeting of July 12th, 1999 recommended to the Common Council that the request to remove the sidewalks and that the allowing parking in the city of right-of-way also be denied. Mayor Stafford will declare the hearing open.
As we start this hearing, I would like Alderman Sherman to give a little background on this situation.
About a year ago, there were a lot of complaints in the city about people parking across the sidewalks. And what happened was the police department went out and patrolled the city, and the properties located at the corner of 7th Street and Broadway, many of those people down there were parking across the sidewalk. There really is no parking in that area. There's no off-street parking, and they were all issued tickets and promptly called me on the problem. I went over and took a look at it, and I noticed that the sidewalk only extended about 150 feet to the south on the west side of 7th Street. I've got photographs here. I don't know. Did you see it, John? You, Ed? We'll send those down. So what I proposed was to remove the sidewalks from the sidewalk that extends down on Broadway south, which is about 150 feet, to allow parking in front of the properties. One property has a driveway that is sufficient for 2 parking spots. I believe that property is that a single-family home? It's a single-family home, so they have sufficient parking there. But the problem is with that particular property is there are tenants that are parking, also blocking the sidewalk. I discussed it with them that if the one property in the middle, there's 3 houses in question. If the house in the middle did not have the situation that it has, that they really would have no alternative but to find parking someplace, as far as in the driveway or whatever. So really, I propose that we go ahead and remove the sidewalk. Nobody uses the sidewalk there anyway. I've been down in that area myself. I got a phone call from a lot of the neighbors on this issue saying that they were concerned that parking was going to be on the street. I told them that's not what this was about. This is not about parking in the street. This is really to allow the people living at those properties to park on the property. And the one house in the middle, it basically sits on the lot. There's probably the front yard, I don't know, probably about 30 feet in the front yard, so it's just large enough to allow a car to park there. Right now, they've been parking parallel to the sidewalk, and it's really an inconvenience, especially in the wintertime, to be parking the cars in that manner, in that fashion. The house on the corner, I don't know if there's anybody here that is from that property. I believe there's 2 units there. I don't know if there's enough area to get 4 parking spots in that particular, on the east side of that building. But that is actually what you would need to have parking there, is 4 spots. The only other thing I'd like to see is, before the city goes and removes the sidewalks, I would like to see some sort of receipt from the people, either the house on the corner and one in the middle, some sort of receipt that they can show us that they've paid for some sort of gravel, run a crush, remill, or something to put down as some sort of driving surface, rather than it'll cause a mud problem. The problem, the Falls property, basically, I think that all we got to do there is put some topsoil in where the sidewalk was.
This is to have who dig up the sidewalk? The city?
The city.
Excuse me, in regards to removing the sidewalk, I wish you put a regular top on it, so it won't be a mud hole. 7 feet. Right?
That's what Alderman Sherman just requested, that if this is going to happen, that something be put in place. If the cars are going to use that for parking, something has to be put in there, be it gravel or remill blacktop, or remill from the city has and sells, where the street grindings, that could be put in there to keep the mud from happening. We definitely don't want to turn it into a mud hole.
Right.
Limestone works.
We're not, the city is not going to pave that. If you want that paved, that's your responsibility. What we will do, the property owner, what the city will do, though, is where we remove the sidewalk, we'll put topsoil back in there. But as far as paving it, we're really trying to solve the problem with the property on the corner and the property in the middle. By not removing the sidewalk in front of your property, those tenants will be issued tickets for parking across that sidewalk. If that sidewalk is left there, okay, if you don't want to either have a grass there, or if you want to leave the sidewalk there, if you want paving there, that's really up to you to do that. That's what we're doing. One of the stipulations I'd like to see, though, is that they present some sort of receipt that they've got something for top to go in there. Yeah.
You said that the city sells the blacktop that they tear up.
Yes.
Do you have any idea on how much that would be?
Remill's cheap, isn't it?
Remill is cheap. I'm not sure the exact price, but
Joe, you must know, what is it?
It was like $10 a ton, isn't it? Or $10 a truckload?
$10 a truckload or something?
Something like that.
Would not.
It's like, no, it's like stupid cheap.
he's thinking $20 for a 10-wheel dump, which you wouldn't need that much of. But that works good. I've been told that works very good. If you put it down and they smooth it out.
What I was going to say is, I can get the truckload if you want to share it with me. Would that take care of it all? That would do all of ours. Yeah. That'd take care of it. Because I only got a little ring thing.
Maybe y'all can get together and work something out there. We just.
Who do we talk to about that?
Talk to Joe.
You get the list upstairs?
Yeah, I have the forms to fill out, and then you would come in and you would order it, and then I would give you a copy of it, and you would go down to the Department of Public Works and make arrangements to have it delivered.
We'll just dump it, right, and we got to spread it?
I believe so.
Yes. One of the unique situations that we have here, and why it happened, I don't know, because it happened years ago. That sidewalk that we're talking about is like a sidewalk to nowhere. It goes 150 foot down the block and stops and accomplishes absolutely nothing. If it was a solid sidewalk all the way down the block, then we might look at this differently. But there is no other sidewalk there. Yes, ma'am.
I own 100 feet on 7th Street, and it is not the area we're talking about. It's up on the corner. We have never had a sidewalk. In fact, the sidewalk you're talking about is the only sidewalk on 7th Street, all the way down to Faith Street anyway. And for years, people had parked the way these people want to. And
unfortunately, we have laws that say that you can't park blocking a sidewalk.
It's a state law.
Yeah.
Uses that sidewalk.
Well, I understand that, but that's why the recommendation has been made to remove the sidewalk, because it is not used. In this way, with the right amount of stuff put in there to stop any mud, then it could be used as, no.
Any more than I have in my driveway. But I see no reason why it can't be done. I'm only putting in because I live there, you know. And years ago, I've lived there 52 years, we tried to get sidewalks and curves in the city ordinance to the dog. We got absolutely nowhere.
It's a very expensive proposition.
Well, back then, we had the money to do it. Now I don't care. But my husband used to plow our grass in the winter, and people still didn't mow. I see people every day come down State Street and go right out in the road. They don't even try and walk, I'm sorry. So I don't see a problem with that.
Thank you. Mr. Fiorini, would you care to elaborate on the Planning Commission's decision on this?
And you will remove the sidewalk and take care of it from there on?
This is, what we're looking to do is remove the sidewalk. Once the sidewalk is removed, it will be the property owner's responsibility to get something in there to prevent it becoming a mud hole. So gravel, limestone, remill, something of that nature.
Planning Commission recommended denying of removing the sidewalk for several reasons. Number one is that anyone making a right-hand turn from Broadway going south on that street is impaired by the traffic that's parked there. Number two, it's especially bad in the winter. Number three, it's parking in the right-of-way, which is a whole another issue. I think there are codes on the books right now that deny parking in the right-of-way. I understand we have a lot of problems, but the code is there. And if the code says you shouldn't park in the right-of-way, then change the code if that's what you want to do.
I dug through the code, and I could not find it in black and white.
The right-of-way legislation that was passed a year ago, thereabouts, I believe that talks about a permanent structure being placed in the right-of-way. Now, that's open to determination if parking area is a permanent structure, I would think, but I'm not sure.
Unless the car's up on blocks, I don't think it's permanent.
Yeah. Arch, on the corners there, any of the corners, you'll see a sign. They can only park so close to the corner anyway, and they'll get ticketed if they do. I know, I go by that every morning because I go that way to work, and there's been cars parked there ever since the last 14 years I've been going by that. The only thing is they've been parking illegally, they've been parking on the sidewalk. I guess what you'd have to do is let people live there, just tell them they're going to have cars. You know what I mean? That'd be the only thing you do. One time, they did park across the road against that fence where the cemetery is, and then they put stuff.
According to his argument, then, you would still be parking in the right-of-way.
Well, it depends on what the right-of-way is. I think it's 33 feet from the center of the road.
Oh, parallel parking. You can't allow parallel parking.
But the council's always regulated parking in the right-of-way.
Are you
We do it
talking
in winter months.
Are you talking parallel parking on the street?
On the street, yes.
That would cause more of a hazard,
Yeah.
I think,
You're talking
in
about
that area
You're
than
talking about danger turning off of Broadway. You're talking
Than the off-street parking.
You got a problem with pedestrians crossing the street there and getting hit.
So apparently all the other members of the commission didn't think so either.
More than 25 feet.
One of the things that I heard going out into the neighborhood in the last couple nights, so there was a couple of people that were concerned that they thought that this public hearing had to do with establishing on-street parking in that area. And they were definitely against that. They said the road, that they felt the street was too narrow at the present time to allow on-street parking. And I told them that the hearing tonight was not in reference to that.
But my personal opinion is that I would only allow parallel parking on one side of the street or the other. Okay? Another point that the commission made was during the winter months, it's absolutely unbearable trying to make that turn there because of the snow. Okay? I think the snow needs to be removed. Not just pushed across the street.
I'm not arguing that point with you at all.
The point that the commissioners made was that the code calls for duplexes or multiple family residents to provide 2 parking spaces per apartment or per tenant.
It doesn't apply if it was a multifamily before the property was zoned that way, or before the...
Sorry, I didn't speak up.
That doesn't apply if it was a multifamily before that law came into effect. We've got that problem all over town with multifamily properties that don't have enough parking spaces.
True.
Pre-existing, non-compliant.
Okay.
You know that.
All right. That's not the way we felt about it, but
In a multifamily property.
you can do it any way you please. You are the elected officials. Okay, but the planning commission looked at this long and hard, and we made our recommendation as we saw it. It's up to you, not really.
I appreciate the time you put into this, and the points you're making are legitimate points that have to be considered. Is there anyone else who would care to speak on this? No, over here, please.
To answer him about parking on the street, we tried that, as Mark knows, and my car got hit twice. And that was parking as far off that road and off the property as we could. And the accident was never reported, they just hit my car and kept on going. So that is out of the question, we've already tried it.
Are you in the house on the corner? The middle house? Okay.
So we've tried everything.
And you can't park across the street because of the cemetery.
And that would still be in the right of way.
We've never parked across the street, no.
On the Dempsey property, too, keep in mind that the parking should be at least 25 feet from the corner when you get ready to set that up. That is per the code book right here, just so that you know ahead of time.
Should be a sign there, Mark.
No parking here to the corner.
Well, the signs, when they put the signs, those indicate on-street parking. The signs don't indicate
What about the driveway, though?
off-street.
Wouldn't you want the driveway set up the same way, though? Yeah.
Well, yes, you would, but there's not a legal requirement. I say when they put the signs up, no parking here to corner, that is for on-street
Okay.
parking.
I still think it would be a good idea, though. I think they're all right where it is. I think they're at least 25 feet, if not 40 feet from there.
Well, I think if we're going to pass a resolution, that we're going to put stipulations in the resolution for safety's sake, that we need to address the safety issue here, by all means. Yes, ma'am.
I think parallel parking would be very bad on 7th Street. It's a narrow street, there's a lot of traffic. And I come around that corner from Broadway up to Salem several times a week. And with cars parked there, you wouldn't be able to do that.
I got several calls on that, people not wanting that type of parking down there. All up and down 7th Street, people were calling me on that. So I probably got at least 5 phone calls.
Is there anyone else who would care to speak on this? Is there anyone else on the council?
Yes, Mark, any neighbors in that area opposed to this?
They were opposed to parallel parking.
Do I mean to what's being proposed here?
It doesn't have to-
I had spoke to the Dempseys. I see Mike just came in. I didn't know whether, Mike, if you had something to add to the public hearing or not.
Not right now, no.
Okay.
I don't know what's been said before I was here.
Mayor?
Yes.
I get a question. I understand Mr. Dempsey's problem with parking. So I guess what we're trying to do here is facilitate a little parking area. Is that what we do across the front yard?
Well, for years it's been allowed. The house was put there and the one next door was put there, never having a driveway. For years it was just allowed for people to park across the sidewalk there. All of a sudden they started enforcing that you can't park across the sidewalk, and the cars have been being ticketed.
So the sidewalk's the issue now, whether we take the sidewalk out or the parking lot to help your problem, make that corner better for you, right? That's what you're after, right?
Well, that was suggested by the alderman, Sherman, that
I think this is
if
a
the
problem.
sidewalk,
Yeah,
if
this
the
is a
sidewalk
problem.
came out, then we would be parking across the sidewalk.
This is a problem we have. This is a problem, unfortunately, that's been a problem for a long time, quite a few years, right?
It's always been a two-family house.
So
Ever
this is
since-
a problem, I think, that we have throughout the town. So we have apartments. Parking, when it overlaps the road, becomes a hazard. We gotta take each case by its merit, I guess. This case, I think it'd be better to get the cars off the road. Is that what you're trying to do? Pave that or something, make it.
That is why we're having the public hearing, because every instance now has to come before a public hearing, so each one can be discussed on their merits.
I think we're making, in some cases, I think we ought to ask the neighbors also, but I think it would be better for common good to get those cars off the road. I'd be in favor of helping this gentleman to do that. And I think each case has got to be weighed. I think an important issue has been brought up here. Each situation should be looked at. This is going to come up because we have multiple families.
That is the ordinance that was passed in regards to the use of the right-of-way requires that a public hearing be held before the Common Council every time that somebody makes a request.
That's also why, when I wrote the law, we made sure that all the neighbors were within 100 feet were notified in writing by the city so that they would know there was a public hearing. Yeah, I wrote it.
I think we ought to help the gentleman out because it's going to help the city out.
Thank you. Yes.
You know, I don't know if it was brought up before I was here, I just walked in late, but that particular corner too just poses a problem with the traffic from Nestle's getting out. Did anybody like that? But it's a very, very busy corner, and I used to live there myself downstairs and rent out the upstairs, and the police used to come and ask us to move our cars from Broadway. There's no sign saying you can't park there, but they would say, just out of courtesy, can you move the cars? The traffic coming out of Nestle's they can't see around the corner there, you know. So we'd move our cars and put them wherever we could for the time being, and but it is such a busy corner, and the visibility on Broadway, being that the traffic's coming by at a higher rate of speed than on the side streets, it's a safety problem. If you have the cars parked anywhere around on the street around there, so that's why we need some sort of off-street parking.
Well, even with the off-street parking, I know for a fact, because I make that turn a number of times a week myself, you have to be very careful, because if one of the cars is backing out of the parking spot that you're using now, and with somebody coming around the corner, it is a hazard, and I don't know how we're going to ever eliminate that if people are going to be parking there, because it is the house is close enough to the corner where it makes it rather blind for people making a right-hand turn. But again, people, as you are making turns, have to use caution and be aware that possibly there will be traffic entering the street. It would be the same thing if there was a driveway there. It's nothing that we do is going to make this an ideal situation. All we can try to do is try to make it as safe as possible. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, as well as a solution to my problems, also to have a safe solution too.
Does
I know.
These people being ticketed every day?
no.
No.
No. Well, no, I'll I'll tell you,
Happened about
having had a little bit of experience with the police department, I know that...
A little bit of experience?
I know that there's not enough hours in a day or officers on the street to go and do this on an ongoing basis. Usually parking complaints, especially parking complaints involving a blocked sidewalk, are complaint-based. But what happened is there was a complaint that was brought before the council, and we asked at the time, asked the police department to check this more closely because there was a number of walkers that were complaining about the sidewalks being blocked. So they did. They did just as we asked. And they went out and wherever they saw a car blocking a sidewalk, they wrote a ticket. Well, nobody ever uses this section of sidewalk, but it's a sidewalk and it's in the ordinance, and they did as they were instructed.
So they were ticketed once?
I don't know how many times they were ticketed. They may have been ticketed once, but the possibility of them being ticketed on a daily basis is there if there is an ongoing violation. So we're trying, the idea behind this was to remove the possibility of violation. It's not changing the parking any more than what's happening right now.
They've been very inconvenienced for 1 year through the winter and everything, and it's really something that should be resolved.
And that was the basis for this whole public hearing. Would anyone else care to speak on this issue?
Your Honor, I believe, checking my memory here, that the remill is $35 inside the city and $45 outside the city.
And that's a 10-wheeler load?
That's if they put two loads in, it's $70. One load is $35. So
That's a big load, though.
But 10-wheeler load, I don't know if they need more than one. I think if you check,
right.
We could have the DPW come up and look at the area and tell you how much you're going to need, I would imagine. Yeah, I don't think you're going to need all that much. A 10-wheeler loader, is a lot of it.
Will that include the section from Broadway up to the end of the sidewalk?
Yes.
For sidewalk removal.
The houses that are there
The houses that are there.
on 7th Street?
Yes.
From Broadway
To the end of the, we will take out, if this resolution passes, we will take out the sidewalk that is there now, the entire sidewalk. We're not going to just take out a section and leave another section. We would end up taking the whole thing. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mayor, my first reaction when I read the minutes of the Planning Commission was, what's the purpose of removing 140 feet of sidewalk? But after going over there and looking at the three properties, and I talked to Mr. Fall and I talked to Mr. Dempsey, they absolutely have no place to park. As Mark said, the one driveway there, which will accommodate 2 cars, unfortunately, most of the time, 1 car parks there and 1 car parks on the property. The middle house, there's no driveway, and the Dempsey's house has no driveway. If you pull your car up past the sidewalk, you're out of the road. If you pull a vehicle back of the sidewalk, then the back end of the car is in the road. So I think, as it's been mentioned already, I think we have to, unfortunately, fortunately, we have to deal with these things on an individual basis and make the decision based on what we think is the best fix to a very difficult situation. Now, the attempt has already been made to correct these problems on conversions and buildings that are built, 2-family buildings, because it does require 2 parking spaces. But as Ron knows, there's properties all over the city that just don't have a place to park. I think we owe it to the people a responsibility that you ought to be able to park in front of your house.
Yeah, well, the problem is a lot of these places were put in and made into rental units long before we had any of the right-of-way laws. The only way you could ever get away with doing it is Either put on street parking or tell them they couldn't have vehicles. That's the only way you could do it.
Some of the houses were built before they had that many vehicles
That's
being
true.
used, definitely.
Yeah, we have a place on Cuga Street, I think when you were chief, we used to exempt it because there's no place for them to
There's no
park.
place
except
to
in the
park.
right-of-way.
Right. If no one else has anything to say on this matter, I declare the public hearing closed. Alderman Sherman, there is a proposed resolution in here. Do you want to modify that at this time?
I'd like to see something in there as far as requiring the properties involved to show some sort of receipt that they paid for either a remill or run across or something to put in there as a driving surface before we remove the sidewalk.
How about the issue about parking too close to the corner? Can we do some of that too?
Can we start digging the sidewalk up after we get 25 feet from the corner?
No, that's not a good idea.
I mean, just keep them out of that, so when you pull up there, you just, you know, so they don't get nowhere. In other words, would they park past the house, so they can lose like a parking little bit?
Yeah, I don't want them going that way though.
That's what I mean. Maybe you ought to restrict that somehow.
With a restriction of
No paving within 25 feet.
no parking within 25 feet of Broadway?
On Broadway.
Yeah.
That would be good. Wintertime is going to be bad because the parking meeting.
Do you know how long that property is from Broadway?
I hope he is. Hope you read something.
How far the house is off of Broadway?
Yeah, no, the property
On the
line.
corner.
The property
You're
line.
talking about the corner.
The southern border of the property, how long is that? What's the distance, do you know offhand? You're going to need probably 10 foot per parking spot, and you need 4 parking spots there.
Right. I really don't know.
So you're going to need something like, you're going to need 40 feet.
In other words, if you took the 25 feet in, would he still have 40 feet to park?
For say, I don't know if we can solve all your problems, but I don't think we can allow parking any closer than 25 foot to the intersection. First, for a site problem, for the traffic, and secondly, for anybody that would be coming out of that parking spot that close as somebody came around the corner would, really create a hazard. We need to move the parking as far as we can south of that intersection.
We're within 25 feet from the curb?
From the Broadway curb. You think that's workable for you?
I see you've got a fence there. You're going to have to move that. I see you got a fence there. Is that going to be that could be a problem for you?
That's going to come down anyway.
Okay.
Doug, do we have to go through the expense of taking out the sidewalk?
That is going to be, I think, a minor expense with a backhoe.
Okay.
Those are going to pop out.
I really think this should be taken out.
Very quick,
The sidewalk there.
Then you don't have a
still
sidewalk,
there.
okay.
If you don't do it, it's not going to be a flat
Okay.
area, and
Yep.
you'll have problems in the future,
Okay.
I believe. Do you have the modifications that we have made to this
Mayor.
resolution?
I think so.
Mayor?
Yes.
Are you taking out the lawns up there too?
No.
It's going to be one big...
Yeah, well, if that is what the property owners desire, if they don't have a use for that, if they don't want that, we could just fill that area where the sidewalk comes up with topsoil, and they could have lawn if they're not using it for parking, if they don't need it. Maybe not all the places need it, and those that don't need it, we don't have to put it in there. But just to make it look halfway decent.
I really wouldn't like to see blacktop from Broadway to the Falls property. I'd like to see, some sort of grass area in there someplace, but I don't know how. You're going to need 2 spots there anyway, at least 2.
We're going to try this resolution and see if we need to modify it.
Now therefore be it resolved that the proposal for the removal of sidewalks to allow parking of motor vehicles on a city right-of-way is hereby approved, subject to the property owner involved showing a receipt that they have purchased the necessary materials to rectify this problem, and with a restriction of a no parking within 25 feet from the Broadway curb.
You got anything else?
If you want a green space, you can do that if you want. It says right here, you can require a green space if you want to.
Is that motion satisfactory?
We're still thinking about it.
Sidebar.
We're still thinking about it.
Well,
OJ?
I would like to see some sort of green space left in there somewhere.
Well, do all the houses need this all the way down to where? I drove past there today and I didn't see cars parked all the way down through there where there was sidewalk. There was some
I
that
guess
have a
my
driveway.
point is where they don't need paving, don't pave it, you know, maybe throw some grass seed down there. I'd really,
Yes.
You speak of the 25 feet, does that include the first house? Yeah, from Broadway
just for the first house.
Just for the first house.
on 7th Street?
Yes.
Yeah.
Coming south on 7th from the Broadway curb.
Will they still have parking?
They won't be able to park within 25 feet of Broadway. They will have to park no closer than 25 feet to Broadway.
Well, how will that affect the first house?
That is going to affect the first house because they won't be able to park right down next to the Broadway sidewalk.
Then 25 feet wouldn't be right.
Well, we're bringing it back 25, the parking will start 25 feet south of the Broadway curb.
We'd have to send it to these guys.
Alderman Sherman, do we have a motion?
I think that what we're discussing right now is maybe we should require some sort of site plan for it, just so we can look at it in 2 weeks and then approve it.
I guess the only question that I had is that, you know, Mark says, if you don't have to pave it, don't pave it, put grass in. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be grass. I mean, well, we need to pave the whole thing, and you might see blacktop from 25 feet from the corner all the way down. And in the law, it says that, you know, we can require a picture and look at it and say that, you know, if you want to look at the picture, well, I want to see grass here and grass here and grass here. And make that be green space.
Since we don't have a motion on the table at this time, Mark, would you...
I'm going to move it the way it is.
Would you like to... Well,
I want to move it the way it is.
We're shooting from the hip.
I will talk to the people and see if we can get something straightened out.
you are going to make the motion that
Yes.
Joe read?
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Do we have a second?
That woman over there.
I'll second it, Your Honor.
Hand up.
Mark the gunslinger.
You had a question?
Is there some more? You have some more?
Well, I was just explaining to her why Mark was worried. When he's worried about my front yard, you're afraid it's all gonna be blacktop?
Yeah.
It's not gonna. I've got my garden over here and my dog's pen over here.
All right, but you're going to work that out with the...
I'll go talk to the people and we'll get it working out.
Okay. We have a motion
And a second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Resolved that the city chamberlain be authorized to transfer $13,000 from the G1990 sanitation contingent account to the G8130 wastewater treatment plant account to cover the cost of the additional work on the weirs from the primary basins.
I'll move it.
This is mandated by the
Yep.
EPA.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Whereas the clerk was authorized to receive sealed bids in his office on or before August 16th up to 4 p.m., publicly open thereafter, for providing the City of Fulton Police Department with a police management software in accordance with specifications prepared by the City of Fulton Engineering Department. Whereas the city clerk opened the following bid and read aloud as follows: DG Torque Incorporated, $15,750. Whereas the sole bid was given to Mr. Edick of the Engineering Department for his checking and review, and whereas per his letter dated August 17th, he has recommended the bid be awarded to DG Torque Incorporated in the amount of $15,750. Council would agree with the recommendation of Mr. Edick. Therefore, be it resolved that the bid of DG Torque Incorporated in the amount of $15,750 is hereby accepted and awarded in the amount of $15,750.
Can I ask a question? When I talked to Ron Edick, I talked to him about trees and sidewalks. And I don't mean any offense, but what makes him qualified to review a spec for police management software? I mean, it's a lot different than what I usually talk to him about.
Yes, he went over the spec. The chief put the spec together as to what he wanted. Ron just checked it to make sure that the spec was not pertaining to one vendor, that more than one vendor could comply with the spec. That's all that they do. It came from the department that requested it.
Okay. I'll move it.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item.
Whereas Section 177-25B8 of the Fulton zoning ordinance requires common council approval for any sign/awning that projects into the city right-of-way. Now therefore be it resolved that New York Pizzeria is hereby granted permission for their existing sign/awning pursuant to Section 177-25B8 of the Fulton zoning ordinance, subject to them producing an insurance certificate to the city clerk, naming the City of Fulton as an additional insured in the amount of $1 million.
Well,
do we hear a motion?
Well, here we go again. I got a question. Because the resolution says into, and our right-of-way law says into, does this qualify, or is this something that would fall under the sign ordinance instead?
Hanging over the right-of-way.
And I've got the book open if you want to read it.
Mr. Lund could answer that. I didn't hear the question, sorry.
The resolution says that the sign is, I would guess it's going to be an awning or something like that. It's going to project into the right-of-way.
It's already there.
It's there.
Yeah, this is after the fact.
I haven't eaten there yet. So we're right on time.
Pizza's good, too.
Put it in the next question.
I see we're right on time. The right-of-way law that we just talked about says any permanent use of structures or improvements within the right-of-way.
Well, this would...
So would this qualify?
But does it say over the right-of-way?
Well, actually, the resolution says into.
I know this is probably an instance where the right-of-way law and the zone, or in the sign ordinance overlap, and this is actually an instance where essentially this was overlooked, and that's why it's after the fact.
I wasn't using the right-of-way portion of the zoning ordinance, I was using the sign.
I see that. That's why I asked the question.
Traditionally, though, anything that hung over the right-of-way, we always made them have insurance on the signs.
Right, but that falls under the sign ordinance part of it.
Under the sign ordinance, not under the right-of-way ordinance.
I mean, when we did the right-of-way law, I don't think we even talked about signs as a possible...
We talked about signs being stuck in the ground,
right?
Not being an awning going over. Do you want to change? I mean, how do you feel about changing the wording of the resolution to say over the right-of-way, or something along those lines?
I think it's always going to be subject to the sign ordinance anyway. Maybe that's something we need to look at in legislative committee.
All right.
Because we are still looking at the sign ordinance.
You don't like where it says projects into?
I don't like the word into.
Okay.
Change it to over.
Over?
Over. Well, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know really the legal definition of right-of-way. I mean, is it like from the sky to into the ground? And I mean, you do a lot of real estate, so.
You got a couple hours?
No.
I thought we had that one resolved, but apparently we don't now that this has come up.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, that's all. Can we change it to over?
Yes.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
This is your government
Next
at
item.
work.
Whereas Section 177-25B8 of the Fulton zoning ordinance requires common council approval for any sign awning that projects over the city right-of-way.
I'll move that one too.
Well, wait a minute.
You're not done yet?
I'm not done yet. Now therefore be it resolved that the Blue Moon Bistro is hereby granted permission for a sign/awning pursuant to Section 177-25B8 of the Fulton zoning ordinance, subject to them producing an insurance certificate to the city clerk naming the city of Fulton as an additional insured in the amount of $1 million.
I'm in. I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
What was it?
Is there anyone in the audience that has any business to bring before the council?
I have a small issue about Copper Beach Common, very small. A gentleman asked me to ask you people about the lot that, for Mr. Dyack, who lives on Utica and 400 Utica Street. There's a lot left from the project. The grass is being cut by Mr. Dyack, has been for 4 years. He would like the city to take that over. What happens is he started cutting it because they're throwing trash in it, so he just figured if it was cut, nobody would throw trash. So he'd like the city would please cut that because it is a city property.
This is a city property?
I believe so.
Copper Beach Commons.
It is city property.
Okay.
Copper Beach guy lives in city.
Was it one building lot that's left?
No. It's the area around the Copper Beach tree.
David Dyack.
People were so concerned about saving the tree that we actually cut out a portion of the land up there. It belongs to the city, and it's like a little park area to protect the tree, which is
Oh, right up on 4th Street?
right on the Fourth Street.
Okay.
Mr. Dyack is mowing it,
Okay.
just out of the goodness of his heart.
Yeah, he'd like to be relieved of that obligation.
Okay.
I'll run my mower up there this weekend.
It's already mowed.
Yeah, I'll start over.
Give me a break.
Does anyone else have any business to bring before the council? Does anyone in the council?
No, I do.
Are you done with those little stories?
No, I got more letters.
All right.
First of all, I want to commend the Valley News, especially the Recreation Committee actually wants to commend the Valley News, and especially Dave Taylor, the managing editor, Luke Eggleston, the sports editor, and all the staff that put together this wonderful supplement on youth sports. I think it was very informative. I've heard a lot of positive feedback back, and they did a great job of presenting the youth sports teams in the city. So thanks to the Valley News. And then I've got my letters that Roy Hodge, who happens to be here tonight, put together from Fairgrave School, and unfortunately we only have 8 letters left.
Wow.
I know. A lot of the council wanted me to try to have more letters. So I'm going to read 4 tonight. I think they're just great. They're from the young people, and really they're interesting, I think. This is What I Like About Fulton by Zach Griswold. One thing I like about Fulton are the recreational areas. I also like the school systems. The parks are nice to play in and also to enjoy time with friends. There are also many of them. There are pools to play in and cool off in the hot weather. The summer programs are interesting and useful to people at work. The school system is good too. They teach useful and neat things to kids to help them understand different things. They have decent food and a nice staff. Decent. We have small concerts a lot and 3 different music classes, including chorus, band, and orchestra. Fulton is a great city and a great place to live. This one is by Chris Brayton. Fulton is looking better by the day. Old buildings are being replaced to make the city look modern. New restaurants are being built to attract people with different tastes. With the cooperation of Fulton residents, the city can become better and better. If you want to get exercise or if you just want to see some of the many beautiful sights of Fulton, you can walk the bridges. There are plenty of places where kids can play, like the Bayou, Lakeview Lanes, the YMCA, or the CYO. If you want to enjoy a great book, you can visit the Fulton Public Library. Or if you like shopping, you can shop at the Kmart Plaza. Fulton has parks for children to play in, or if your children like sports, you can sign them up for one of the many sports Fulton has to offer for children. Fulton is showing no sign of slowing down. We're finally living up to our motto, Fulton, City with a Culture, is what he got on. This one's by John Wood. One thing that is good about Fulton is sports. We have one of the best wrestling teams in the state. We also have a good basketball team, and our baseball team is not too shabby. Another thing that is good about Fulton is the people. The people in Fulton are very friendly and nice. When it comes to grocery stores, I think we have the best in the state. You must be hungry. The food is fresh and the prices are low. This one's just titled Fulton by Nicholas DeSantis. When you walk the Fulton streets, you can hold your head high. You can just look up and watch all the clouds flare in the sky. He's a poet. It's a town where everybody knows your name. Everybody gets along, and you don't have to feel timid if you ask a complete stranger to play a game. The city isn't that big, so it's just like one big family. The city has a wide variety of programs, so everyone's got something to do. I wouldn't pick any other city than Fulton to have grown up in, and my children will hopefully grow up here too. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
4 more next time.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
Any more?
No. Thanks.
Good. Anyone down here?
One thing I want to ask, how are we coming on the houses on back taxes? Because I got the ones in the 6th Ward there. Remember I gave you a 617 Fremont a couple of months ago?
Is that the same kind of rate?
No, that's Guile.
All of them are in the process. There's actually a few things that I'm not clear on, that this is actually a topic of the fall training school in a couple of weeks that I'll be going to, so I figure I'll get together what I can, but pick up some pointers there to be able to...
Well, one thing I was concerned about is that we could do something by budget time, so we could budget to take maybe 1 or 2 of them down next year. Because the ones that I'm looking at are been abandoned for like 6 years.
John has already given me a note that I put in the budget folder to budget money for demolition for next year.
Okay, that's what I'm concerned about, that we get it before this. Thank you.
I have a question on that. How long does it take to get the procedure going on something like that? I mean, is there something we should do before? There's a property on 4th Street, 356 South 4th, that we're going to end up taking in back taxes. The guy has not paid in over 3 years now.
Okay.
Well, your date comes up, you get a report from Diane Moore, right?
I think I'm going back right now. I think what I'm starting with is 95s.
Right.
That's what Jim gave me. And process probably takes 6 months to a year each time, and then each
So is that something we should start ahead? Do we start that ahead of time as far as, or do we wait till after the 4th year?
You got to wait until the 4th year.
Wait till the 4th year.
It used to be
ready to go.
If you don't pay your taxes, if you haven't paid your 99 tax yet, we can't start it for 3 more years.
No. You got to wait till the 4th year.
We're never ready to go, so on the next day we tear it down.
It used to be 2. We had it 2 years, and then they changed it to 4.
Yeah, it used to be shorter.
Okay. Any other?
No, sir.
I received a letter yesterday, I think, alerting us that we have a problem on the lake. Dear Mr. Mayor, I have a concern about Lake Onawanta and what goes on there. There's been many times when my grandfather and I have been fishing at a lake. From the other shore, 1 or more jet skis would come speeding toward us, suddenly turn and fly past alongside. It has not been an isolated incident or the first time. I wouldn't really mind the jet skis on the lake, but when they come in and zoom in at less than 30 feet, then I get upset. I'm pretty sure the other fishermen do too. I've seen many a time when my grandfather and I will be out on the far side of the lake, fishing close to shore, catching fish as fast as you can throw the line in, when the jet skis come flying past us so close that I can clearly see the faces of the people driving them, and then you won't be able to get a bite in that spot for usually an hour, and sometimes not again all day.
That'd make me mad, too.
I guess. I'm not saying to ban jet skis from the lake. I would just like them to keep their distance and make them aware of this lack of respect by putting up a few signs. In short, I'm asking you, jet skis, stay a safe distance away from those fishing and other boats. I would gladly respect their fun if they would respect other fishermen's fun and mine also. This was submitted by Michael Carmanicki. I'm going to pass this information on to the Sheriff's Department and ask that not only do they patrol the river for speed but also whenever they can to get a craft onto the lake to enforce the laws and make it safer for everyone on our lake as well as the river. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.